Well, hello, everybody.
Good day.
What's today? Man, I'll tell you what, John, it's a special day, and I'm going to throw it up there real quick. It's Cinco de Mayo Day. It is. So it's adult beverage day during the day. So if you're at work or anything, this is a day to drink, right?
That's right. Here you go. Shh, we don't want too many employers hearing that.
Exactly. Okay, so before we jump in everything, you know, I always like to have fun. What am I drinking today? You guys have to pick and see if it's right or not. Go ahead, John.
I'm going to guess land shark just because I'm a creature of habit and that's what you do, but you might be surprising me.
What do you think, Michael?
I'll say it's tequila.
Tequila. All right, so here it is. It's a shark arita.
Nice. There you go.
Of anything else, what else would it be besides the sharkarita, right?
Oh my gosh, that's classic. That is classic. Yeah, we both win.
You both do win. But we have a special guest today, Michael G. Cox. I was going to say Michael J. Fox. You know what I mean? So
I get that every now and again. It's hilarious.
Yeah. When I seen you on LinkedIn, Michael, I was like, Michael G. Fox, man. Michael G. Cox. It's all good. But Michael, he's got a great recruiting background. Yeah. We're going to deep dive into it, Michael. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, and what's going on these days.
All right. Wow. So I started in recruiting when I was in university. Didn't even know it was recruiting or recruiting was a thing. It was just like a summer job to help pay for school. And then after that, it was 4 years in recruiting. And I knew it was recruiting, but I didn't know there was this massive industry. And then I went into sales and did that for several years. And then after that, merged sales and recruiting. I've been in agency since then, corporate sales recruiting. And at the end of 2019, I thought, you know what? 2020 is going to be a great year. I need to take advantage of this. And jumped and went solo at the end of 2019 as a sales recruiter. And things were going great until this thing, I'm not sure if you guys heard about this. It was kind of like a flu, but really bad, spread across the world. I don't know if, anyhow.
I read something about that.
Yeah. I think it was in the news. That thing hit the fan, and it was a crazy year last year, but learned a lot, and things are definitely rebounding this year and on fire.
I was going to ask you, how's your business doing now that things are starting to kind of crawl out?
It's been nuts, man.
Good.
It's a weird situation where you have some employers thinking it's still 2019, and you have individuals, those that you're going after, that are kind of in a new way of thinking with regard to their career and their whole work-life balance and what that means to them post-pandemic. And that disconnect between those two trains of thinking creates a bit of a train wreck. So it's been fun, though. I tell you what, things have really picked up, definitely.
That's good. Sure. I think we're seeing that across most industries, which is great to see. I mean, all the staffing indicators are up. Your temporary staffing keeps going up month over month, as reported by SIA. And I know in most verticals that's happening. So we just want that trend to continue.
Yeah, the interesting thing that I've seen since January, I don't know where I saw this statistic. I wish I had the article ready to go, but the number of people that have applied for positions, so active applications, has dropped from 2020 by about up to 40% in certain industries. So you have people that just completely stopped applying. So this just sit there and apply or post a position and hope that somebody applies, the whole post and hope thing. It's not working, man. Not working at all. And so you have companies that are kind of stuck in a lurch because maybe their internal recruiting staff hasn't quite made the transition to this new, I don't want to call it the new way, but this shift where if you're waiting, you're going to be waiting for a while.
It's the right way all the time, right, John?
Absolutely. I was just saying, you mentioned something that I know I preach all the time, is that in this business, there's too many people, to your point, that want to post and pray and be reactive, and they think, oh, well, I'll just get the candidates coming to me. And that is not recruiting. Recruiting, you've got to, that's what they didn't call it headhunting for nothing back in the day. You've got to go out and proactively find these people that chances are they're working somewhere else doing what your client needs them to do. And then you figure out, do I have something that's missing in your life, and can I attract you this way? But you're right. The ones that any recruiter wants, probably the candidates aren't going to be looking at the ads anyway. And you're right. That's gone down. There's also, I think, it's got to factor into that. And I don't know which sectors get impacted by this most, but with COVID, there were a lot of people that unfortunately got laid off, got furloughed, and, aren't back to work yet, but they're not ready to go back to work yet. They're getting a nice little check from Uncle Sam, and they're taking time off and spending time with the family, and they're passively looking for their next opportunity, maybe resetting things. So you've got that portion of the workforce that may well be very skilled, but they're just kind of not ready to go back yet. So that also reduces it.
Well, and I think there's part is the COVID too. I mean, we have to figure that into. A lot of people don't want to go back yet.
That's true.
And there's a subsect of the human industry, individuals that are not working, ready to go back to, or are able to go back to work, but are currently quite comfortable. And this is just from personal experience. Individuals that are not ready to go back to work because they have a stimulus check and also unemployment that is paying them what they would receive as far as base salaries are concerned. So keep in mind, all I do is sales recruiting. So at the individual contributor level, for organizations that are looking for business development reps, sales development reps, typically the first link in the food chain, if you will, or the org chart.
Where you're not necessarily gaining access to that lucrative commission-based plan.
Exactly. So, but you might offer them a $40,000 to $60,000 base, but they've got up to $50,000 coming in through unemployment, and they've kind of figured out I can actually live off of this. It's not the best lifestyle, but I'm not going to work every day.
I can live off of that and pursue my interest as a YouTube influencer.
There you go. Or do something else, or go back to school, or do something else with all of that free time.
Right.
But you know what the mindset is, guys, is a lot of people work their whole life, and this is the only chance they had to take a little bit of break, and they are taking it from the government. They're like, wow, I've talked to so many candidates. I worked 30 years, never had a break, and I finally got a break now, getting unemployment and a stimulus check. I'm going to take it for the next year.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting, Richard, to your point earlier, there are, I know our company is just starting to phase back into people coming back into the office. And we have some groups that we decided, you know what, you can do your job remotely. You don't ever have to come in. We have others that'll be like a hybrid model. But there are some people that don't want to go back into an office. And if told they have to, they're going to seek employment elsewhere. So we've got that candidate base to deal with also. Yeah,
I've got a client in Chicago that is currently remote for the most part, but they're hiring an inside sales team, so individuals that are outbound focused, doing outbound sales, and frankly, everybody that I've approached on their behalf says, "Wait, I have to go to the office, even though I could do this off of a cell phone, laptop, their software, it's all SaaS, and I can access that through the web. Why do I have to be there 5 days a week for 8 to 10 to 12 hours?" And that's difficult to explain, because they've gotten to the point where the U.S. economy had a swift kick in the pants that pushed many individuals into work from home situations, and they kind of like it. And so the overwhelming majority of people that can do this from home don't have to fight traffic. Even if it's a 40-minute or 30-minute commute, granted in Chicago, it's going to be tough to find just a 30-minute commute. They don't want to do that. No. And so I'm having conversations with sales leadership executives and saying, what are you going to do? And many individuals that I speak to are saying, yeah, I agree. We'll do a hybrid. Work from home 3 come to the office 2, something like that, and that's more palatable to an individual. But I found greater levels of pushback to that hybrid or work from home 100% model from the sales manager that unfortunately has become accustomed to managing over the shoulder of an individual. And so what the position now requires is an individual that has an intrinsic motivation. You're not going to be motivated by an external individual, or you don't require that. You're going to be driven on your own. And that need is probably going to leave some individuals behind that were reliant upon that old or what we had become accustomed to, which was somebody pushing you.
That's a really good point. And, in the big picture of things, that's the profile we always want to hire as recruiters. You want that self-driven, self-motivated person. But when you have them in your bullpit or in your office at any given point in time as a manager, you can look over your shoulder. You can kind of prod them to do a little bit more. And sometimes, it's our hope that we can always take that underperformer and turn them into a self-motivated big biller. Rarely ever happens, right? So that's interesting that you mentioned that, because now with being virtual, you're right. Now you have to be even more sure that the people you hire can be self-managed and self-governed.
Yeah.
Well, I think the numbers don't lie, guys, right? I mean, at the end of the day, after 3 months, if you haven't got one client, something's going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hire fast, fire fast, as we say.
Michael, I
figure
gotta
it
ask
out
you,
quick.
what do you see about the brick and mortars? Like, you're going into these companies and stuff like that. Are they downsizing a lot of their workforce, and everybody's going remote, and they're like shrinking their office space, basically?
If they can, a lot of the and not just clients, but just people that I have conversations with. Not everybody turns into a client, but those calls, on those calls, we're having conversations about, well, what are you going to do with your footprint? I mean, you're sounds like you're tied in and it's typically like a 3-year, 5-year thing. They're realizing this is really expensive, and sometimes that motivation or that piece of the puzzle, man, this is expensive real estate. We need to take advantage of it, get everybody in. And others are thinking, man, this is really expensive. How can we reduce this? Because we're not using it. I had another client that I did some work for. They shut down their offices in New York City. They didn't need them. So they don't have a physical presence in the United States, but they're doing just fine. And they've had to evolve their sales tactics, their sales management, their sales process, and take a risk on making that evolution to the managing a remote sales force.
And from a, what's your view on this? So, especially since you specialize in sales, one of the differentiators, let's say I'm in New York City and I'm a sales professional, and I say to a client, well, yeah, you get all these calls from people that are virtual. Well, I'm right here, and I like that personal touch. So that's why I'm going to come meet with you and discuss what's going on. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's virtual. So the playing field all of a sudden is a little bit leveled, and I don't have that advantage anymore. Are you seeing that?
You mean from an aspect of their sales force having lost that advantage?
Yes. So for those sales forces that used to do, made their living and built their brand on that in-person personalized touch and getting to really know their client in an up close and personal manner, versus others that were like, I know in recruiting, when I was on full desk, we always worked a local market. Yeah. And you had long lines recruiters that, hey, I'm calling from Arizona to talk to a company in Maryland to place a person from South Carolina. And we would always say, we know the local market. We're recruiting locally. We meet everybody, et cetera. Now that's kind of not the case until we get back to normal, if we ever get back to normal. So that advantage potentially has been mitigated.
Yes. So the big evolution there is it's still about building that relationship. I don't think that sales is changing. I think what is changing is maybe some of the tools that we use, but it's still all roads lead to getting on a conversation, whether that be on the phone or in a Zoom or some sort of video.
Right.
But in place of pressing the flesh, you've still got to build that relationship and lead with value.
Yes.
and demonstrate the fact that we have done, might want to do for you, makes sense. Let's get this moving forward. So the sales process really hasn't changed, but maybe those individuals that were accustomed to, selling from the desk or selling in the room that you've got. So you see this little photo here, and maybe you talk about that, and you see that all these drawings, and you talk about that. You ain't got that anymore.
Like the Brooklyn Bridge that's behind you.
There you go. So hey, you've been to New York? Oh yeah, I've been to New York. Last time I was there, and we shoot the breeze, if you will, about things that are on an individual's desk, and you don't have that anymore. But you still have to have a sales executive that can professionally shoot the breeze with an individual and build some sort of rapport. And I wouldn't call it building a relationship, but you're building a certain sense of trust in the individual, because an organization is selling from three different aspects. It's my company versus your company. And honestly, if we're both going after the same company, and that person really doesn't care if it's your organization or mine, it's more about you versus me, and are we able to build that rapport? And then also the service or the product and the quality of that. It's kind of like the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and that's where I sold. It's kind of like, do you have the vision? Do you have the ability to execute? And do I like having a conversation with this person?
Perfect. That's you summed it up all in one right there. It's
great show, guys.
Coffee chat, and you can say it too, man.
I'm only halfway done.
It's all about bullshit, Michael. Say it. Bullshit. You don't have to say the other one.
Reading the shit.
Bullshit. There it is.
It is about the recruiter, and that's who the client or candidate forms a relationship with. That recruiter just happens to work somewhere, but it's all about that individual relationship.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm having a conversation with an individual who I've never met before, and we're going to be having a conversation over the phone. He's actually about an hour and a half north of me. He's up in Austin, and it's going to be after hours, and we're going to have a quick 15-minute conversation. This guy's a CRO of a massive organization, but I'm bending his ear about things that we need to chat about. Awesome. So it's I guess you could call that a relationship, but we've never shook hands. We've never seen each other face to face.
You took it to the next level, Michael, because you're doing it after hours. And me and John, we talk about this all the time. That, you know what, you got to work after hours sometimes. You know what I mean? On the weekends for recruiting, look at you for a client. You're working. Most people come down at 5 o'clock. You're working around their schedule, and that's great.
If you're going to be a successful recruiter, it is not a 9 to 5. You've got to understand that, and you've got to embrace it. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it's a successful anything.
I agree. That's true.
Don't, and this whole work-life balance thing makes it sound like 50% of your time here, 50% of your time here. It's on a seesaw, man. And some days I'm going to be all about family. All of last year, it was all about family. And because we had some stuff going, and the shit hit the fan and craziness. This year, it's kind of leaning the other direction, because it's all coming back, and this is where I have to spend some time. And my wife understands, and we adjust accordingly. So, but if you're going to be a successful whatever, you're not satisfied with exactly where you're at and stagnating, or that's a bad word, but just staying where you're at. It may take more than 8 to 5 to get it done.
Well, you bring up a good thing. And when someone says they want work-life balance, you got to ask them what their definition of that is, because it's different for everybody. To your point, work-life balance might be 80-20, and they're comfortable with that. And that's cool. It's like whatever works for the individual. But let me ask you a question. So let's transition. I'm going to force the envelope here a little bit, Richard.
Do it.
So you make that call to that CRO.
Yeah. And
you're talking about some stuff. So typically you would think at the CRO level, you're calling that person as a potential client. But is that a business development call, or is that a recruiting call?
Initially, so we'll use this individual as an example. It was neither. It was just networking. So he's the head of an organization that's got like 100,000 total employees, and he's in charge of quite a bit there. But the way we connected was through LinkedIn, and then so there's a sequence to this, and there's a sequence to building a relationship, regardless of what that relationship is. You can't just get from point A to Z without going through all the steps. But this relationship was basically, we start with an initial connect request. Thanks for connecting. I do this, or you share some value if you're open to having a conversation. And then we get to work on, we have a conversation about his potential next career move. And I help. And I start doing that, especially last year. The overwhelming majority of my business development calls, well, first of all of them are to that VP of sales or above level. Mm-hmm. When I make that call, nobody answers. But when they do answer, especially in 2020, it was not only are we not hiring, we're laying off, we're furloughing individuals. So no. And also, by the way, I'm kind of looking for a job. Can you help me? So I helped as many people as I could. And 100% of my business, when things started coming back in September, every piece of my business up until today has come from those calls. Helped them find another gig. They did it on their own, through their own networking. I didn't have an opportunity for them. Mm-hmm. But I helped on everything from resume, LinkedIn profile, to how to answer these questions. And I guess you could call that a sales call. And to harken back to what we're supposed to be talking about, recruiters with no limits, the multi-purpose call. The purpose of the call was to help, was to get some business. It ended up being, yeah, I'll help you. And that help goes for, I got one guy that I've been working with for months. And then a bunch of these, almost every one of them found a new gig between then and now when we started having a conversation.
You know what I love is that
me up and said, hey man, now I'm building my sales team. Can you help me out?
Perfect.
And that unselfishness of, of giving without asking anything in return from the onset, that comes back. That's karma. And I'm a full believer that whatever you put out there will come back to you. What I love what you said was a couple things I want to reinforce for our audience. When you connected with the person on LinkedIn, it's not just about, so many people stop there when they connect. And then they start, just selling. And they don't take the time. You talked about how I can show or add value to that person. That's key. How can you help them? And I think so many people overlook that. And when you make that call, you said two things that stood out. You were trying to help. You didn't know how you were going to help, but you were trying to help. Yeah. And two, every call at a high level should be approached as a networking call. So often recruiters go into calls saying, for example, I'm trying to recruit this candidate and they're tunnel visioned, or I'm trying to get this job order and they're tunnel visioned. And they forget about all the other possibilities that could happen as a result of just having a conversation and letting it flow and seeing where it takes you and seeing how you, to your point, how you can help that other person in some way. Yeah. And I love the fact that you mentioned that.
Yes, Michael. Yeah. Help is all it's all about. Help. Giving equals growth. But when you said help, if I could say anything about anybody out there today, when you get on a call, it's all about help.
Yeah. And so, and it's not just recruiting, but just sales in general has become way too transactional. And I think especially in sales, with a very high level of turnover of your consultant or recruiter or 360 desk or whatever you're going to call that individual on your team, the life cycle of that individual within a recruiting firm is fairly short. So I get the desire to want to be extremely transactional. But I mean, again, the work that I did in March of last year, after things dried up, is what paid me back in September. And that's not what I was doing it for. It was just like, hey man, I've got 25 years of sales and recruiting experience locked up in here. Let me share this. Let me give this to somebody, and it might serve them. And if it doesn't serve them, and I'm being perfectly honest, I'm like, hey guys, hey, look, John, I'm 99% of the time at your level, you're going to find that gig through your own network and in your own job search. But I'm definitely here to help and maybe bounce some things off of, because I've been doing this for this many years, and all of your problems in your job search are figure outable. You just need somebody in your corner to say, hey, they said this, they stumped the chump. How do I figure this out?
There it is. Coaching them all the way. Man,
Absolutely.
I love it, Michael. You're an inspirational man. And you know what? The first time we met, what do? We just didn't connect, and that's it. We got an excitement conversation all through email, and here he is right today. And I think that's just something about what we have to do to everything that we talk about.
Yeah, definitely. And take off those blinders that say paycheck, and looking at everybody as a paycheck, and because you're going to be worn down and beat up if you keep looking at it just in those terms.
And you're not going to grow your business. I mean, everybody, to your point, the work that you do today, it's not immediate gratification in any type of sales. The work you do today is paving the way for the results that you hope to gain months down the road. And you've got to be long-term focused and put in the time to put in those building blocks to building those long-term relationships. And to your point, it can't be transactional. You can't be one and done. That doesn't bode for a long career in any industry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even with the clients that I didn't do too hot for some reason, I have a client that I didn't fill any positions for them. They said, hey man, this isn't working out. Great. Let me explain why from my perspective. Maybe we'll redo this, in a couple months or a couple years or never. But this is my honest feedback and based on my experience. And so we're just having conversations that aren't limited by what do I need right now? I get it. We all have needs right now, but the network, the sales, the work that you're engaged in needs to be approached from a much longer term perspective.
Totally agree. Yes. And every time you make a call, when you have those conversations, it just opens up more avenues to discuss. And again, not focusing on individual transactional needs. But when you're talking to a hiring manager, I loved recruiting for managerial level positions for those searches, because every call I was making was to a hiring manager somewhere else. So while I was hoping to engage enough to get to know them and maybe get them to activate themselves on the market, I also knew that on that same call, I could market candidates into that person as a potential hiring manager. So, again, keeping to your point, take the blinders off. There are multiple avenues you can traverse on any given call, and recruiters have to be aware of that and not hang up the phone until they've exhausted everything they can think of.
And go in with an open mind, guys. I think that's the biggest thing. Go in with an open mind. I mean, my conversation, sometimes we're like, are we going to talk about staffing and recruiting for your company? We're bullshitting about something else.
Who knows?
Football or whatever. But that breaks the ice. They're like, man, I want to work with you because we're having a great conversation and we can work together.
Well, and you're showing you're genuine and authentic, Richard, which is why people endear themselves to you.
Or I don't want to work with you. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't like Richard. And hey, no, dude, imagine
they're afraid the shark's going to bite them.
and that's cool. Hey, I tell every because I got my messaging going on LinkedIn, and every now and again, or quite often every day, I get a no, and I respond with, "Hey, Richard, no is my second favorite answer."
Yes, better than ghosting, right? Yes or no?
Yeah, move on.
I'd rather have a no than nothing. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. My second favorite answer is no, not right now. My third would be no. So I'm pretty sure you can guess my first. Let's talk. Yes.
Hey, Michael, while we're on this subject, what do you think about, it sounds like you're on LinkedIn all the time, of everybody out there just sending emails of just everything, trying to sell you something right off the bat.
Gosh.
I mean, come on, man.
We call them assholes. It's like you connect and you immediately ask, and it's always on your birthday on LinkedIn, in life insurance, and every other day it's I got leads. You want leads? I can get you leads.
Everybody's got leads. Everybody has leads.
I don't know if I still have it on there, but on my LinkedIn profile on the tagline, I had put something like, no, I don't have it on there anymore. It was like executive sales headhunter, sales junkie, nonprofit board member, not interested in your leads service.
I love that. That's good.
and so the asshole is the one that connects and sells, builds no rapport, never says thanks for connecting. This is how I might be able to help you, serve you. The big cheat. The big cheat is connect, say thank you, and offer to help them. And stop. And so typically, I'll give this one away easy. Look, my connection request, I only go after second degree connections. And I tell them, hey, although having connections in common is a good thing, I'd welcome the opportunity to connect. Have a good one. When they connect, hey, I don't say their name. Hey, thanks for connecting. As a sales recruiter, most of my connections are people in the sales industry. Or in the sales profession. If I can connect you with anybody, just say the word.
Exactly.
And then I go away for a while, come back, and then the messaging sequence begins. But we're nowhere near an ask until we have some sort of back and forth going on, because it's a long-term process. I can't just get them from cold to yes, or at least I'm not skilled enough just yet to get them from cold to you want some recruiting services within 2 messages.
I had one of those this week, and it always turns me off. Now, what I always do to people that do that, I just connected with this guy. He was in a related field. So again, I'm pretty choosy with who I connect with. I'm not one of those LinkedIn open networkers that has 300,000 connections.
Yeah.
But so it's got to be a potential for mutual beneficial stuff. So I accept his connection invite, and immediately he sends me the canned pitch via messaging. So I responded to him. Yeah, it was. And he was selling a service, and he's like, and in the message, he's like, we can do this, and it's only $600 a month. It'd be perfect for you, blah, blah, blah. And I replied to him, and I said, I'm a little bit offended, A, that this is your first message to me.
Yep.
And B, you don't even know me, so how can you recommend a service for me?
Yeah.
And to his credit, he responded and apologized. But I'm like, dude, I'm trying to help you out. Don't do this, because it turns people off.
Absolutely. But
big time.
And now with the limits that are on LinkedIn, that LinkedIn has imposed, which is no more than 100 new connections per week.
I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it forces to be much more strategic with regard to who they're going after. Now, here's the thing to whoever is listening to this. Once you figure out that whatever you're doing is your thing and it's going to be your thing long term, start connecting with individuals that, for example, in recruiting, in sales recruiting, for the past many years, I figured, someday I'm probably going to go independent. If that were the case, who would I want to connect with? And so it's the hiring people and it's the doing people. So for the past several years, it's connect with account executive, senior account executive, major account executive, CRO, VP of sales, director of sales, sales manager. You get it, right? I'm connecting with that org chart.
Recruiters with no limits too, right?
And recruiters with no limits. So that's where I started focusing my networking calories. That's where I'm going to burn my networking calories. And that's what you have to do, because the network that you need today, it's the one that you built yesterday. And unfortunately, what happens, and this drives that transactional behavior versus relationship behavior in sales, any kind of sales, is I have to work fast to get somebody from connect to a yes And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. We have too many shotgun weddings trying to happen when you've got to go through the proper courting process in a sales process.
Good analogy. Absolutely.
So real quick, Michael, why does people want a million connections? I see this all the time. Everybody wants grab, grab, grab. You can't talk to 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. Why does people want volume? It's with companies and sales and everything. Everybody wants volume.
Well, I want volume, again, of the right types of connections. But I would want volume on decision makers. And the reason I wanted that volume until these restrictions went in was I find that in-mail response rates are horrible. So if you have LinkedIn Recruiter, Sales Nav, you can message, like, I think it's like, I don't even know, because I don't use in-mail, because the response rates are so abysmal. It's like you're pissing in the wind. You're not going to have a positive response if you have any kind of response at all, because in-mail doesn't work. So rather than going the in-mail route, I go with connect, message, and then it's like on the candidates, yes, and there's email involved in that messaging sequence, and there's cold calls, and there's the voice messages, and then the text messages, and it's all like, hey, John, we connected on LinkedIn. Hey, John, just wanted to follow up and just doing this. And, oh, by the way, I left you a voice message, and my message back on LinkedIn is going to reference what I did over the phone and what I do over the phone. Hey, we connected recently on LinkedIn, and it's all built around this.
Yes.
Like, hey, we know each other, man. We're connected over here. Let's talk over here. And it's just it's a very long series of baby steps, whether you're selling a candidate to a company or you're selling a company to a candidate. Sorry, just to sum that up, my desire to have more connections is based on the fact that I'd like to, the connection that I made today, I'd like to approach a couple months down the road. But between now and then, they're going to see my posts on LinkedIn. They're going to possibly engage with some of the stuff they send them on LinkedIn, maybe a rando email, a random voice message, and also like the polls on LinkedIn that are working really nice. They'll see, and then I'll call them up and say, hey, man, I post, because I post a new article every day on LinkedIn that's specifically geared towards people like him or her. By the time I call them on the phone 3 months down the road, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, you're the dude. Yeah, exactly. We've gone back and forth.
So Michael, it sounds like, dare I say, you have a strategy?
Wow.
It's all about the strategy.
Is there some planning involved in this? You mean it doesn't just happen? I don't just put something out there and it all comes to me?
Marty McFly.
Somewhere along the way, I fell into Richard's funnel. And it was a long time ago. And so because we got connected a long time ago, and now we're having deeper conversations. Totally normal, because we're doing it kind of like humans do it.
Exactly. And I did not ask you, hey, Michael G, you want to do business together? Let's do splits. Never said a word about business at all, right?
What are you talking about? What? Who are you?
Yeah, what?
I don't know. You get to know the person first.
You want to jump into my business? What?
Exactly. Yeah.
Who are you? Yeah,
dude.
Exactly. That's so true.
And that could be the guy that's offering you leads. Like, dude, who are you? You don't even know my business, and you're telling me you can bring me clients?
Right.
Dude, do you know who I work with?
Well, Michael, if you're on LinkedIn all the time, you probably know, I'm not going to mention his company's name, but they say guaranteed 3 leads in 1 week. And it's horrible.
There's 1,000 of those companies, so I'm not sure which exact one.
6-figure recruiters and all this stuff. It's like, all you need is throw a number in front of it and people bite on it.
Hey, man, more power to them. I guess if they can find individuals that are willing to move money in that direction, good luck to them. But I don't think that's going to work very well.
Not long term anyway. They'll get a few, like to your point, they'll get a few transactional hits in the short term. But you've got to have the quality to back it up. And if you bring a quality service that will benefit someone, then you can be a long-term customer. But I don't know. I think we're all in agreement here. It's our philosophy that you got to first understand that person and their business to even figure out if you have anything that could benefit them.
Yeah. And honestly, I had a sales call that was yesterday, more to the point of the multi-purposing of the call. I had a conversation with a dude yesterday, and we got off and we were talking about he's a VP of sales, and we went totally down. I took it down the wrong end of a call. I was kind of treating him like he might be in a job search, and he says, no. Maybe we can do that in the future, but I've got about 9 positions that I'm working to fill. I'm like, whoa, hey man, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to take you down that route. Let's talk about this. And we ended the call with, look, let me do my homework, Mr. Client, Mr. Prospect. I'm going to do my work first before I ever even send you a contract or anything, because I need to look into locations, skill level minimums, desired skill levels, what your comp range looks like, and I'm going to pull all of that together and do like a market mapping of your region. Because you say you want to hire, or you're possibly wanting to hire me to do this work. I need to see if I can actually do it. I'm not going to lie to you and just burn this relationship to begin with. Man, and by the way,
good stuff.
All of that started with, hey, although having connections in common is a good thing, I'd welcome the opportunity to connect directly. Thanks for connecting.
Can I say that? Woo! There's a Ric Flair for you. Michael G, man, you're
awesome stuff
today.
Well, again, it was just like a trickle of messaging, and all of that messaging, to your point, John, dude, that takes a lot of work. And if you can find the guy, or let's say the individual that can help you with messaging, what to say on a cold call, what to say on your voice message that's specifically geared to your niche, that's like gold. That's really hard to find, and it's typically not going to be the individual that says, I can get you leads,
right?
Because it's not working for them.
Well, and you know what's interesting is back, years ago, the challenge was finding the people to connect with, finding people to market to, finding people to recruit. Now with technology, it's not about finding them. You can find them anywhere. The challenge now is, how do I engage with them? Yeah. And that's where all these baby steps and multiple forms of communication come in. Yes. And not selling right out of the gate, but taking the time to build that foundation and earning the right, if you will, to venture down that road with them. I still go back to, I love your angle of, both of you, Richard and Michael, you both said it, how can I help you? And letting them tell you how you can help them, instead of assuming what you think you should help them with. Yeah. And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be a paid engagement, man. Yesterday, one of the VPs of sales that I spoke with yesterday, late afternoon, he's on his way to the gym, and he's looking to possibly make a career move. But once you get to that level where you're at the peak, you're the CRO, VP of sales, whatever, you ain't got very many options, and you have next to zero options that make perfect sense for you. So it's a lot of kissing frogs. And so I don't know if I'm 99% sure I'm never going to see dollar number one, but I'm going to talk to him, and I'm not going to do his resume for him. I'm going to review it, send him some advice. If he does the work and comes back to me, I'll do the same thing for his LinkedIn profile. If he does that work and comes back to me, I'll do some work with this is how you address questions based on who's across the table or across the call from you, and where they sit on the org chart. But I'm not gonna keep doing that work if I'm not seeing that he's engaged. And eventually, because he asked me, so what's your fee for this? I said, hey man,
last guy that spent,
look at that.
last guy that I helped, and that's it. I mean, that is it. A nice bottle of whiskey would be nice every now and again. This one's not empty, so I don't need to charge anybody else anything. But I told him, look, there's two possibilities. I make a buck off of this. I place you in a VP of sales position, and I charge a fee. Or, and more likely, we spend enough time together to where you like my philosophies on recruiting, sales recruiting, and sales. And if that matches up, when you land someplace else, need to build a team, you give me a call. We have a conversation to see if it makes sense to move forward. And that's it. So if I do that, if I have that kind of call, and I've had it's usually about 3 of those calls. I'm averaging 3 of those calls with VPs of sales on a weekly basis since March of last year.
So if anybody who's tuning in or who will listen to this on the replay, if they take anything away from what you're saying, Michael, oh yeah.
Hey, this is on demand 24/7.
That look on your face, you're like, if they can take anything away from this, it's you got to put the work in. You mentioned you're making 3 of those phone calls a week. Well, to get 3 of those people on the phone, there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on in order for you to get those 3 conversations to happen.
Yeah.
And it's all about thinking down the future and building it and not being so short-term focused. This is a relationship business, and the relationships, sometimes they happen real quick, but most of the time they take time to evolve. And let it evolve. And that's why it's a combination of quantity and quality, right? You got to be doing a lot of things in order to build a few relationships that are going to pay off. And you can't get discouraged if it's not happening right away.
Yep, absolutely. And those relationships transcend career moves. I mean, here's the thing, dude. There, especially in recruiting, there's always a us versus them, corporate versus headhunter or independent, corporate versus agency, or agency versus headhunter, which is weird. It's like we all eat our own. I was in corporate for many years. I really enjoyed it. I could end up doing that again, and that's okay. But what I take with me is my network and the relationships that I've built. And I'm not going to be if I do go to corporate, I probably won't be there for the rest of my life. No job is permanent unless you die. So
exactly right.
Build your relationships.
And I think one thing that we haven't touched on real quick is the voice tone. And John knows I talk about this all the time. When you get on the phone, show that passion. I got 3 E's I always talk about: excite, engage, employ. That's it. You do them 3 on each phone call, boom, they're yours for life. I'm telling you.
On a phone call, and even on a Zoom, but on a phone call especially, hey, when you're talking, you don't see me doing this. You don't see me nodding my head. You don't see me tracking. It's just my voice. So when I'm having a conversation, or I'm prepping a candidate, or I'm giving advice to an individual that's about to go into some sort of a phone call, you got to step up that energy, because if you think you're at a 10, you're at a 5.
It's like showtime.
Step that up.
You click the light on, it's like showtime. As soon as they answer the phone, it's like I'm on the stage.
Yes. I was training a group of recruiters this morning, and we covered that exact topic. It's like if you don't come across with the passion, if you don't believe in what you're talking about so much that it comes through in your voice, the person on the other end is not going to believe in you. You've got to have that passion. You got to bring it, but it's got to be genuine.
Yeah, it has to be genuine. And so I don't know, maybe at like an entry level type of a situation, maybe it's not as necessary. I would still think it is. But when you get into a specialization of, this is what I do today, and I'm going to do this, I feel I'm going to do recruiting for the rest of my life. Get some passion behind that, dude. Get visceral about the problems that you solve, and get emotional about that stuff. And I often say on these calls, when I'm having a conversation with a candidate or a prospective client or a client, sorry, I got a little carried away, man. I get emotional about this stuff.
No, brother, go for it, man. Go.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I have to excuse myself and say, sorry, man, I got a little little carried away with that tangent, but I get worked up about this because, man, Mr. VP of Sales, isn't it annoying when you have another mishire that's walking down that hall and you see them walking down there, and that's the same person that hasn't given you a return on your massive investment of hiring that individual. That is a mishire. That's what I'm here to replace, because it drives me crazy when you see that individual that already has the base, has a ramp, a guarantee, and has full benefits and has no desire or really no guilt about not giving you a return on that massive investment. Isn't that annoying? Dude, it drives me crazy. Yeah, it does.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Scenario right there, boom, and rest is history on that.
Yeah, man. But if you don't have that, maybe that niche that you feel passionate about, that's going to be tough. If you're just like a generalist, but if you can tap into the problem that you're solving for this individual, this head of sales, this head of warehousing, this head of whatever you work in, and say, look, dude, I'm going to get you that forklift driver. I know a guy, and I know he's very successful, and I'm going to bring him to you, introduce you. These are the questions you need to tap on. This is what he's going to do. He's going to make your life easier.
So there you are, doing consulting too, like we always do, solving the problem.
Yeah, don't fill the position. Solve the problem that position was created to solve.
And I always say we're part of. And John said, I say this all the time: workforce family. You're part of our family. Without putting candidates to work and stuff like that, we don't live either. You know what I mean? So we have to address that to everybody, that we're all a group and we're a teamwork.
Yep.
This has been great stuff today, Michael. We really appreciate you coming on.
Is it over already?
Well, we're flying by, man. It's flying by.
Wasn't this like a 3-hour thing? We're going to hang out?
This is a marathon until 5 o'clock. Now I got to go get a real margarita.
I got my next one ready to go, man. It's still capped up.
Hey, just everybody out there, me and Michael G did not pick these outfits out, you know, at all.
I got nothing else, man. This is the one that's clean.
Same way with me.
Brothers from another mother.
That's right.
But hey, Johnny, anything for wrapping it up before we head out of here for Cinco de Mayo?
You know what, Michael, I've really enjoyed listening to you, and we share a lot of similar philosophies, so I embrace them. I love, just reiterating, find out how you can help someone, regardless of how that is, and know that you might not benefit financially from it now, but just have faith that the more you put out there, the more the potential that it's going to come back in the future. So I love it. Yeah.
And to kind of put a bow on it, you're just having conversations. Now, if your niche is accounting and finance, whatever, you're like what we're doing today. We're just talking shop. 3 guys talking shop. And we just love what we do, so we're talking shop about it. And if you're in your niche and you're talking to your people and it's a quote unquote potential sales call, you're just talking shop, and they're seeing right into you and the passion that you bring or the knowledge that you have because you spent so many years in it. You know the pains, you know the solutions. And what another cool thing is, had a conversation about that just yesterday and the day before. And then I can take those conversations and I can turn around and have a conversation with another individual and say, well, this is what I'm hearing. Are you hearing the same? No? Cool. Then it was just me that heard that from all these other VPs of sales. You're clearly not dealing with the same situation, but at least it's building some sort of clout. And then a couple days ago, it's like, man, you got a big problem on your hand because you got to build these comp plans out so that you can entice individuals to come into these 9 positions that you're going to have. Now, what I've seen others do is this for base salary ranges, this for on target, this for benefits, this for location, and so on and so forth. That's very interesting. I've been taking some notes down. I appreciate you sharing that with me. And it's just stuff that I've gleaned off of conversations that I've had with other individuals. So it's all about, all roads lead to get on the phone, get the conversation started.
Communication and collaboration. Something right there.
Yeah.
And one more thing before we go today, I got a little special gift in the mail this week from my partner here, John's book right here.
It arrived.
Look at it.
What's it called?
It's called Moneymakers.
Nice.
Yes.
Looking it up now.
Definitely a great book. Look at the man on the back. I tell you what, sharp man right there. He even autographed it for me. Hey, Johnny, thanks a lot, buddy. I'll be reading this.
Enjoy, Richard. Enjoy, my pleasure.
I'll check it out right now.
He's a guru in this industry. But as we wrap it up here, it's Cinco de Mayo. So if you go out there, be safe out there. Have a couple margaritas, a Dos Equis, Corona, whatever. But enjoy life. We'll see you next week. Same place, same time. Michael, once again, thanks a lot. And Johnny, I'll see you next week.
Hey, guys, thank you.
You bet.